Good evening. It's Cold Front Report. Got my guys Travis with me. Got my guy EJ with me. Bills training camp is right around the corner, and there's going to be a lot of tough decisions to make for the Bills to get back to the AFC Championship or even further to the Super Bowl this year. But will 11-year veteran Jerry Hughes be one of them? We'll see. We're here to debate it. Some guys feel he is. Some guys feel he ain't. We're going to talk about tonight. Thanks for joining us. Right after this break, we'll be right back. Let's get it. Fellas. It's good to be back. It's been a quick minute. Training camp is coming up very quickly, and we got some things we got to talk about. Specifically tonight, we can talk about 11-year vet Jerry Hughes and where he fits in here at Buffalo, if he fits in here anymore, and what are the chances that Buffalo gets rid of him? Got my guys at me. EJ Daniels, what's up, my man?
What's going on, man? Ready to talk some Bills football as always, man.
All right, Travis Blakely, what's going on, Trav?
Nothing, man. Excited. Seasons, we got real football in less than a month. Can't wait.
So fast, right? Right around the corner. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. But guys, it's this Jerry Hughes subject. I've been saying for a while that I don't think Jerry Hughes is safe, and I firmly believe. And I still believe that Jerry Hughes is not safe here in the Bills uniform through this training camp. And my opinion with that only infuriated when they drafted not Greg Rousseau, but Boogie Basham is the one I'm like, whoa, somebody here is not safe. And I think it's Jerry. And for multiple reasons, we're going to dig into it. So before we get too far into the show, I want you guys' opinion on Jerry Hughes's past 2 to 3 seasons, the production level. I know EJ, you got the PFF stats as far as the pass rush win rate, which I absolutely hate. I hate the stat, but we're going to get into it. You got to explain to the people what that stat means. And then Travis, we want to talk about just does the sack numbers actually matter? Does that prove all his production? So EJ, you got the floor, my man. What do you got for his pass win rate the last couple of years?
So Jerry Hughes has had one of the top 5, top 10 pass rush win rate actually, and so what it basically is the times that he wins his individual matchups against left tackles. That's pretty much where he lines up, is on the right side, left side of the line, and he's been pretty dominant, man. He wins. The issue that Jeremy and most Bills Mafia fans has is the fact that he doesn't get sacks, and the things about it is I rather have the guy that consistently gets pressure and consistently wins rather than sacks. I told Jeremy something a long time ago. He was telling me like, yo, Jerry Hughes doesn't get sacks. Well, I was saying based on your methodology and your formula, Jordan Phillips should be a person that's still on the team because he had close to 10 sacks one year. So just because you're not getting sacks doesn't mean that you're not affecting the quarterback. And that's kind of what pass rush win rate is saying. Is just like, yo, you're winning, and then when you win, You're getting pressure on the quarterback. You're altering his throws. You're altering his launch point. You're altering, how much pressure he is actually seeing in his face and making his throws difficult. So Jerry Hughes has been one of the top at that position, at that stat for the past 2 seasons. And remember, I think it was last year, not this past season, but the season before, he had a broken wrist that was never reported by the Bills too. So to do all that while injured and then to do this year while having a better season than he had the year prior is great to me. And I don't understand why Jerry is on the bubble, to be quite honest with you.
Well, I mean, I think he's on the bubble, and I think Trav's talk about this possibly because of his cap number. Trav, you got those cap numbers?
Yeah, so he's 19th in the league this year, which doesn't sound too high. But, looking at it, that's $9.4 million. Not to mention Addison, who is 29th at $8 million. When you add those two up, that's where I kind of have my problem. You got guys like Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa, D Ford, Bradley Chubb, Chase Young, Matthew Judon, Bud Dupree. All guys who are falling below him when regarding the cap. So, with what we've done outside of, in the draft, outside of the core guys that we had, it's more for me what the guys around him where it becomes an issue because, if Jerry Hughes is all we got, it's not that bad of a contract, but with adding 2 guys, his days may be numbered.
And like I said, that goes back to my point. It's wasn't so much the fact that we added Greg Rousseau, because I think once we added Rousseau, we all know that, or we assume, you never know, that he's going to be a 2 to 3 year project, and he's probably at least a season away from being that impactful. But it was the Boogie Basham pick that I had opened my eyes and said, wait a minute. We went from having 2 old DNs to now 2 very young, 3, including AJ Epinesa, 3 very young DNs. And obviously, we know Epinesa was really affected by last season by trying to get his weight down. They had him cutting weight to bulk back up to get him, I think, back up to his 270, 275, muscular 275, where he's more agile and quicker. And no preseason. No rookie mini camps. Epinesa lost out on a lot of that stuff last year. But now you're hearing rumblings. The first person that McDermott praises in one of his first press conferences offseason is who? AJ Epinesa. So I can't imagine that both Addison and Hughes are going to return on this roster this year. And I know a lot of people said, the first thing they say, well, Jerry's leadership. Okay. Well, you don't need Jerry Hughes' leadership in the locker room anymore. You just went to the AFC Championship game. This is Josh Allen's team. So if you need Jerry Hughes' leadership, you have a problem. This isn't the days of having Neat and Zoe when you got a young team and things like that. Ed Oliver's going into his 3rd year. Trey Emmons is going to year 4 right now?
Mm-hmm.
Josh Allen's going to year 4. If you still need Jerry Hughes' leadership, you have bigger problems in your locker room. So you don't need that. The second part is, for me, why would I choose Mario Addison over Jerry Hughes? Simply because Mario Addison has no trade value. I think that's a bigger point for me is, Addison has no trade value. Jerry Hughes does have trade value. There will be teams calling saying, hey, we'll take Jerry. It may be a mid-round pick. I mean, I don't know if you get more than a 4th-round pick for him at this point. But there'll be teams calling. There's no one's calling for Mario Addison. We'll just wait till you'll have a Zach Ertz situation if you try to trade Mario Addison. I mean, any rebuttal to that type of feeling as far as the value of Jerry Hughes and Mario Addison? Well, what's the difference between the two, really?
Here's my thing, and this is why this conversation is so far-fetched to me. Now, I get the cap number, and I agree with you to a certain extent. However, you would want your best pass rusher to play well when it counted most. Jerry Hughes played better than Myles Garrett, Montez Sweat, and Chase Young going into the playoffs last year. Just to throw that out there. Also, he had more pressures than them, and then he had more sacks than both of them, than all 3 of those guys going into the playoffs last year. So what do you mean by going into the playoffs? For the last 3 to 4 weeks of the year, Jerry Hughes was graded higher than Chase Young, Montez Sweat, and Myles Garrett.
But he only had 4.5 sacks. You just said he had more sacks going into the playoffs. He only had 4.5, and 2 of those came versus the Jets early on in the season.
You say he had 4? He had 8 sacks.
Jerry
Hughes had 8 sacks in total.
4.5.
He had 4.5 for the regular season.
You sure about that?
I'm positive.
He had 3 in the playoffs.
All I'm saying is he was a higher graded edge rusher than all 4 of those guys.
So let me ask you: you would take Jerry Hughes all over 4 of those guys?
I didn't say that. That's not what I see. Don't twist the word. I didn't say that. I didn't say that. That ain't what I said.
This is where PFF goes wrong with me, because logically, as football analysts or even football, well, I can't say fans because fans is just totally different. I'm gonna throw the fan title out the window. But as football analysts, logically, we would not take Jerry Hughes over any of those guys you just mentioned.
That doesn't mean he didn't play better than all 4 of those guys. That's the only point I'm making. That doesn't mean he didn't play better than all those guys at that span.
But it doesn't mean that he makes a bigger impact week in and week out either. Just because PFF releases a stat and says, "Hey, this is what he's done, this is what he's worth," it doesn't mean everything. And nothing against PFF. I particularly like PFF. But there's some stuff that PFF comes out and I'm like, man, this is garbage. And this pass win rate stat is one of those stats. I'm going to show you something that I looked up. So this is the fastest time in the pressure in seconds in 2020. Now look at this top 5 list. I have no problem with those Rams up there. I have no problem with those Bucks down there. But I can tell you that the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Houston Texans, and yes, our very own Buffalo Bills had poor pass rushes in 2020 and 2021. Poor pass rushes. So I thought I got to throw the whole damn stat away.
I mean, you don't have to throw the whole stat away, because there could be a situation where, yes, I am pressuring you, but let's say you're playing a quarterback like Lamar, who's who's probably the best quarterback under pressure, where you're pressuring him and he gets out and he gets a 20-yard gain. Maybe they're just bad teams, but that doesn't mean that they're not getting pressure to that doesn't mean that they're not getting to the quarterback or winning their individual battles. So you can't throw the whole stat away. Like, the Bills get quick pressure. Like, PFF had released the stat that said the Bills had the 9th best pass rush, their 9th best pass rushing unit, which in turn, I mean, was kind of, it was far-fetched to Bills fans, but it really wasn't. Like I said, you got a guy in Jerry Hughes that can literally create pressure by himself. I'm not sitting here saying he's a top 15, top 20 pass rusher. His numbers would suggest that he is. All I'm saying is that he creates pressure individually by himself. That is very valuable, and you guys keep bringing up the contract situation. I'm going to be honest with y'all. The fact that the Bills are getting him at this season for not even $10 million, but 9.8 is a bargain in my estimation. It's a bargain.
Well, then you shop at North. We like you want to jump in there.
It's a bargain.
So, listen, there's no, I honestly, I don't think there is any dispute on my end or anyone's end that I think Jerry Hughes is worth that money. My problem is the situation that we find ourselves with the defensive end position. There's too many of them, and they're all not going to play. And regardless of the way McDermott likes to rotate them in, having all these guys on this team, I don't see it necessarily working. But for Jerry Hughes himself, I mean, what?
But does it make sense to give up your best pass rusher? He's been pretty good the last 2 years. But y'all keep saying the cap number.
I would not get rid of him, because the thing is like you said, I would love to cut ties with Addison over Hughes if we were to do that. I'm not signed up for it completely, but like you said, you don't get anything in return, and it's a guy who already shaved a year off his contract to stay, so clearly they have a plan for him. But Jerry Hughes himself, like we talked about in the pre-show, this guy had 370 pass rush attempts. He is one of only 30 players last year to have 50-plus total pressures, and all of those guys averaged 468 pass rush attempts. So they had 100 additional attempts to reach that number. So, I don't think there is a dispute on how good he is. I mean, you go through the games, that Jets game, he had two sacks, a forced fumble, and an interception. He iced that game. Yeah, they're the Jets, but he took over that game. The Denver Broncos, that run back. You know that counts for something in the playoffs when it mattered the most. 2 sacks on Lamar Jackson. He's the only person who got pressure on Patrick Mahomes in that game. So where I'm probably leaning more towards with Jeremy with the overall, I'm looking at it an overall team perspective. I will never concede that Jerry Hughes is not worth $9.5 million.
So, but this is my problem. You just mentioned the Jets. You mentioned the Broncos, and this has been the Jerry Hughes that I've come to know. He's a bum.
I mentioned the Baltimore Ravens too.
I was just about to say he mentioned the Ravens too. Don't do that. He mentioned the Ravens too.
He's a bum beater.
No, don't do that. He mentioned the Ravens. He mentioned the Ravens too. Don't do that.
He's a bum beater. Come on. Let's be realistic here. He gets sacks and he gets 2 and 3 sack games versus bad teams. He's been doing it. I mean, we talk about Jerry Hughes like he's the sack master. He hasn't had more than 8-7 sacks in like 6 years. Since the original code, the name of this company is Cold Front Report, and he hasn't had a double-digit sack year since the original Cold Front. And I think Mario Wiz has been retired for like 3 years now.
Is he altering quarterbacks though? Is he altering quarter? How is he not, bro?
He's not. He's not, man. Listen, man. He's not. He's not doing it. I don't. Where's the impact? I don't see what the impact is. I get that the win rate. I get it. Yes, Jerry Hughes gets past his man just a little bit, and the quarterback steps up in the pocket. And I'm not knocking Jerry. I'm not knocking Jerry per se because he's not always going to get the sacks. Yes, his counterparts do have to put work in, right? And this is why when you brought up to Jordan Phillips only had 1 good season in NFL, period.
But he had sacks. That was your thing, though. He had sacks.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. He had sacks. But then again,
there wasn't a body of work. You're not taking 6 years of no production. We're taking 6 years. This is not 1 or 2 years. You said before the show, how many sacks did Shaq Barrett have last season, right? This is the compliment. And you said he only had 4 more than Jerry. But he had 23 the season before that. When's the last time Jerry Hughes had 10 sacks?
5 years ago.
2014.
Come on, man. I can still run at that point.
Yeah, right. I know, but I think you overvalue sacks a little bit.
I was just getting ready to say that, bro.
Like I don't think they're bad. They're good.
So then
sacks don't win.
Jerry
we're paying him to get pressure on the quarterback. That's what you're paying him for.
And get an interception.
Right. That's exactly what you're paying him for, bro. Yeah, man. Like, don't sit here and act like he's not doing nothing on the field.
But no, I'm paying him for both, Jeremy. I'm paying him for both.
You're not getting what we paid him for. He's not a run stuffer. He's not that type of guy. Okay, so if you're paying this dude and he's supposed to be a sack master, he's not getting sacks, then you're not paying him for anything. Then why don't we just go pay someone like Jabal?
I don't think $9.5 million is a sack master money.
But that's in the last year of his deal. What was the cap hit in the early years of that contract?
Not much more. I think $12 million was the most he got paid.
And at that point, when he got that 12, was that not top 7 money for a defensive end?
Yeah, you're right. In the middle, once Mario left, like that's where, if we were to cut ties, that's where we should have cut ties.
The only issue that I'm having is your 2 biggest problems is number 1, sacks, which you can't predict from year to year. Shaq Barrett went from 23 the year prior in 19 to this year having 12 or something like that. So you can't predict how you're going to get sacks. What you can predict and what is consistent is how much you pressure the quarterback. Yes, sacks are a byproduct of that. Yes, you have to finish plays, but it don't always happen. Carl Lawson from the Jets came out this week and was like, yo, you can't just judge pass rushers on sacks alone. What is he doing in the totality of the game to affect that game? You brought up the Baltimore game. He made a lot of plays in that Baltimore game. You saying that he only beat up on bum teams?
He played good in the playoffs. Actually, the entire team played great. But I'm not asking him to play good for 3 games out the season. I'm asking him to play good all season. And you talk about you can't predict season from sack to sack. Well, hell, we can predict Jerry Hughes' sack total for the last 6 years. Because out of the last 6 years, it ain't been no higher than 7.
But you can predict he's gonna get pressure on a quarterback. I can't predict that.
What is your definition of pressure? Because
altering quarterbacks throws, altering launch points. Like Travis said, getting fumbles, getting interceptions, making great plays on passing games when it's not just a sack, when it's making smart plays. Like I get it, and I'm here. I'm just gonna argue the other side, bro. You gonna keep harping back to the sacks. Like I said, if you keep harping back to the sacks as hard as you are, why is Jordan Phillips still not on this team then?
Because he had 1 year, and if you go back and you actually review the film, they were all sacks pretty much out of the 9.5 he had. 6 were created by Shaq Lawson.
Yeah, I agree.
In the sacks came after 4 seconds.
Some of these pressures, if you go back and watch, like who is here to say? None of us have rewatched the season in last week, but go back and let's see, you got to look. Are there some plays where he clearly affects the quarterback and somebody makes a play on the ball? Those are something that unfortunately will never go in his stat column.
Exactly. And then we looked at his highest pressure games this year. It was against one of the better old lines. You say he's a bad team beater.
He's a bum beater, yes.
He did it his highest pressure game. He did it against the Titans, who have one of the best old lines in the league. So I mean, you can't give him that.
And I'll give him that game. But you said that game he had like 8 pressures. How many pressures did he have last year? 21, if I'm not mistaken, right? How many?
66.
Well, I'll tell you what, Tannehill looked pretty cool in the
56 pressures.
He had 66 pressures in the total of the season with playoffs, and he had 66 pressures, which is third in the league.
I just want the regular season.
Just the regular season. Boy,
he had over 50.
I know
that.
Over 50. He did. No, he did have over 50. Hold on, it's just some straightening. Hold on 1 second.
It's just no point. Like you said that was his best pressure game, and I didn't see Tannehill look uncomfortable not one point in time that night.
That doesn't mean that he was. That wasn't. Listen, that doesn't mean that he wasn't winning his though. That does not mean that he wasn't winning.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
He had 54 pressures.
54 pressures, and that's by PFF pressures, right?
Yes, it is.
What about NFL.com's pressures? Because you guys give extra pressures on your stat. Because you guys do your pressures a little bit different than what they do.
ESPN has 50 plus.
50 plus, okay.
So we can agree that he had a high pressure season.
Okay, but like I said, once again, I've seen film where you guys consider it a pressure, and it's literally just him kind of going by his man on the outside, and the quarterback just slightly stepping up. To me, that's not impacting a game. That's not impacting a game. And
but it's speaking to him consistently getting to the quarterback. Though. Again, give me the guy that's consistently getting to the quarterback, or the guy that's going to have 10 sacks, maybe 1 or 2, 3 years out of his career. Give me the guy that's consistently pressuring or getting to the quarterback. And that's what it is. He's consistently getting to the quarterback. The numbers say so. The film says so.
You know what? Your numbers, you may think your numbers say so, and you may think that your film says so, but what the Bills have done in the draft the last couple of years of free agency says it has not. Drafting AJ Epinesa early, drafting Greg Rousseau early, drafting Carlos Basham early, drafting Ed Oliver early, signing Mario Allison to a $10 million deal for over 3 years says it has not. And it also says that Rena McDermott ain't going to sit back and stand for it. That's what it says to me. And any creative debate that, because you can debate that if you want. Because
there's no debating that.
I don't see other teams doing that.
Maybe the Bills are saying, hey, we don't want to just get pressure at one spot. We want to get pressure at all 4. So maybe because we know Gregory Rousseau played defensive tackle most snaps at Miami, so maybe they're going to have a rotation at 3 tech, at 5 tech. Maybe someone's going to play wide 9. Maybe they're going to have a rotation full of all these guys, like you said. Maybe Epinesa is going to be Lorenzo Alexander and stand up. He got the body type for it now. Maybe that is what it is. AJ Epinesa.
They ain't doing that. They're not doing that.
I'm just throwing out plausible scenarios.
Once again, the only reason they only stood up Lorenzo Alexander the way they did is because, once again, you go back to that season and they couldn't get sacks or pressures. That was an alteration because no one was getting pressures. We all sat here the last couple years and we saw, especially last season, this defensive line was horrible. So for people to say, well, Jerry Hughes is our best pass rusher, well, that's great. That's great that he's our best pass rusher. He was our best pass rusher on a horrible D-line. That's different in Pittsburgh, where you could say, hey, T.J. Watt's their best pass rusher. Well, they let Bud Dupree walk because their defensive line was good. Ours was not. It's like being king of the minions. Congratulations.
And I don't want I don't want to keep Howard back, but I'm going to do it. What do you want Jerry Hughes to do exactly? He's the best pass rusher on his team. What more do you want from him? He creates pressure. He clearly gets turnovers. He plays big in big moments. You just said he played great in the playoffs.
I'm not going to say he plays big in big moments because reality.
You just said he played great in the playoffs.
Just like everybody else, he didn't do anything against. He didn't do anything against the Colts. Hold on, slow down.
No, he had a bad game. No, he had a bad game against.
He didn't do nothing against the Colts. Let me tell you something. Jerry Hughes don't do anything against a lot of veteran quarterbacks, especially pocket passers. He's neutralized. He does good against mobile quarterbacks, but then again, I've been saying for the last couple of years that a Sean McDermott coach defense does well against mobile quarterbacks generally. It seems like that's when their comfort zone. You can check the records. You can go back to old film from Kofor Report. I've been saying it for years. The Bills play better and playing better against mobile quarterbacks for whatever reason. I don't know if it's because McDermott came up in this league going against McNabb in practice every day and then going against Cam Newton. I'm assuming that's what it is personally. But that's when they're in their comfort zone. I love Jerry for that. That's cool. But this is what we're getting people like Rousseau for. And once again, TFC made a point in our group chat a long time ago. It's a reason that Buffalo are drafting people with the body types of Epinesa, of Boogie Basham, and of Greg Rousseau. They don't want the short arm pressures anymore. They want the sack.
You are right. But remember, it's only 1 year. We only got 1 year left. It's not like we're debating if the guy who has 3 or 4 years left on his contract. So like that's the thing is like if they stick with him this year, man, I'm okay. If they get rid of him, I understand. It's just I think there's a lot under the surface that goes unnoticed with Jerry Hughes, and I'm always going to defend him that. But on a team situation, I probably lean more to like, listen, if that money needs to be saved for players who actually change the game consistently, then I'm totally fine. Your Allens, your Tremaine Edmonds, if he starts to, really take that next step. Your future, we got 2 premium pass rushers. If they both pan out, along with AJ Epinesa, you got money that needs to be spent there too. So, I'm fine with it either way because it is only 1 year. But it is such a divisive topic. Jerry Hughes has been divisive for the last 2-3 years, I think.
It breaks down to it's a business, and it's becoming. And once you start winning, and now that we have to pay a quarterback, it becomes even more of a business now. This is not the Bills from 2 or 3 years ago where we could sit back like, okay, we keep that money in the books because we got a lot of rookies that we're developing. No, you got to pay Josh Allen now. You got to pay Tremaine Edmonds, and as I've been saying, Stephon Diggs is coming knocking on Brandon Beane's door sooner than later for his money.
Yeah.
This is rollover money. And no one's talking about the rollover money. We cannot sit here and act like that's not a big part of it. Rollover money is huge because we don't know what the cap's going to be next year. And if it's slated at the 220, 222 where they're saying it's going to be, Buffalo's only going into the offseason, I think, with $2 million in freight space. EJ?
I don't think they get better by cutting Jerry Hughes. That's my thing. And as Travis just said, it's only for 1 year. We talked about this before the show. Yo, he only got 1 year left on his contract. Why would I get rid of my best pass rusher when you, Jeremy, have educated me?
Like Jeremy said, it's for the future. That's the only reason why you get rid of him. I don't think he's bad, right? No, you won't. You get it. It'll roll over.
So, do you think our D line would just drop and be porous without Jerry Hughes?
You have a lot of unproven commodities. You have Ed Oliver, who got better last year, but are you counting on Ed Oliver to give you at least 5 sacks? That's a rhetorical question because the answer is no. Then now you got Mario Addison, who didn't play bad last year, but you're gonna rely on Mario Addison. Then you got 2 rookies, and then you got F.A. Adobo, who's done pretty much nothing in the league. So you tell me, so you tell me how good the Bills D line would be without Jerry Hughes then, based on all the guys I just named.
I can tell you that the D line was trash with him. So what's the difference?
He wasn't trash.
The D line was trash with them. So what's the difference? We just drafted. We just used 3 premium picks in 2 years.
I agree with you, and I agree with you on that point. But it's the same thing with what the Raiders did with Khalil Mack. They sucked with Khalil Mack. The defense sucked with Khalil Mack. But all of us know that Khalil Mack is what? Top 2, top 3 best pass rushers in the league, correct? We can all agree on that, right?
Yeah. I agree with that.
Right? And they traded him away for first round picks, if I'm not mistaken, 2 first round picks or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was nice. We know that he was good. Right? We know that he was a top 2 or 3 pass rusher. And I'm not saying Jerry is on Khalil Mack's level. I'm not saying that.
Jerry's the junior Pee Wee version.
I'm just saying that we know Jerry is good. Like you said, Jeremy, to start the show, put Jerry Hughes with some other good pass rushers. Maybe we do get.
Well, that's the only time he shows up.
Yeah.
So, in 2 parts to that response to Khalil Mack, the Raiders didn't make the playoffs without Khalil Mack. They're with him. They didn't really make the playoffs without him, and neither are the Bears almost. He hasn't made that much of an impact with the Bears. So, but my point right there being is, why keep the money on the books? Because, like you said, we have a bunch of unproven commodities, right? And the only way to find out what you have is to what? Make the commodities prove themselves. AJ Epinesa has to prove himself immediately. AJ Epinesa don't have no waiting time. The only one on that D line this season that has a year grace period is Gregory Rousseau. Everybody else, oh no. The heat is on. You have come into a winning program, and there is no red shirt for you. You got to come in, you got to play now, or guess what? Buffalo's going to be drafting the DN early again. And the way McDermott and Bean are going with this D-line, you know how you say you always take some GMs always say they don't mind taking a cornerback every year. Well, these dudes, I don't think they'll mind taking a D lineman every year if they have to.
And the success rate on these guys,
I mean,
really that great, man. Like, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I think there's a definite path to both scenarios. I mean, and good thing is we don't got to cut them tomorrow. It makes no difference if we cut them tomorrow. You know what I mean? So it's, you go in, you see what you got at camp. These coaches are going to have a good feeling for what they see. For him staying, I would see a scenario play out where those things regarding AJ Epinesa, regarding Boogie Basham's readiness, like everyone says, regarding Gregory Rousseau's progression. You know, if these guys pick it up and they show something, then each day that goes by, it makes Jerry Hughes more expendable. Because like someone in the comments says, you cut him, you save $6.3 million. You trade him, you save $7.3. If you got three young guys that are going to be cornerstones to your defensive line that are looking like they can play, you know, the way they had Tremaine Edmonds. You know, he was young. He was 19 years old. From day one that he stepped in the door, they slotted him in at the start. You know, who's to say that doesn't happen with any of these young guys? So I really think if they,
I wanted to ask you a question before you continue. If the Bills cut Jerry Hughes at the end of training camp, and all of the defensive linemen we just named are still on the roster, and they don't bring in anyone else, are they closer to beating the Chiefs?
No, I think if anything, it's
no, they are not. That's the point. No, they are not.
That's the thing, though. I don't think you're any closer to beating the Chiefs with or without Jerry Hughes.
A good offense,
a good
offensive performance beats the Chiefs.
Yeah, Jerry. That's what I mean. Like, you're never gonna beat the Chiefs with. I don't mean what the Buccaneers did to them was just totally different, and I don't know if you're gonna see that type of performance against them again. Maybe you will. Maybe you will. I hope it. I hope you do see it. I hope you see it all season. I hope Mahomes gets beat the hell up.
Honestly, I don't know if that's going to happen this year, man. They fortified their old line, and no one's talking about that. They got better on the
But there wasn't one pass rusher who did that. That was an entire team dominating.
Right.
You know, they put their will on.
and nothing against the Chiefs and nothing against the Bills, but that was Shaquille Barrett. That was Ndamukong Suh. That was what's my other man over there? The other pass rusher. JPP. These are all proven pass rushers over the last 10 years. Some of the best pass rushers in the league.
But also remember, they lost both their tackles before that game. They lost both. They're not one. They lost both of them.
Right.
So that definitely played a huge stress. So you're right. You know, you're going against below average tackles, and you got pretty much close to Hall of Fame level, you know, pass rushing with Sue, with JPP, and maybe Shaq Barrett the way he on. So, yeah.
Well, that's my thing. Like, if you're going to tell me that Jerry Hughes is going to beat Orlando Brown, I'm going to say I doubt it. So I'm not going to bank on that. So that's what I mean. In beating the Chiefs, I don't think Jerry Hughes is affects that one way or other. I think, like we've been saying since last year, if you want to beat the Chiefs, you just better prepare to throw 41 points. That's it. I mean, I don't think there is no stopping the Chiefs' offense. I think listen, they score and we better score twice.
And to your Orlando Brown point, and I want to be fair in this conversation. I want to be objective. Remember in that Ravens game, they lost Ronnie Stanley before the game. Yep. Right? Remember, they lost the best, probably one of the best left tackles in the league.
Yep.
They had DJ Fluker playing tackle, who's a guard. And right. And they had
he got moved the guard because he was a bad tackle.
Exactly. And they had Orlando Brown, if I'm not mistaken, playing out of position or he was hurt. I can't remember off the top of my head if it was one.
It was out of position. I think he may have been banged up as well.
Right. Exactly. So there are some mitigating factors to that performance, but I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, Jerry Hughes was playing against such and such and such and such, which just mitigates his whole performance because Lamar is still Lamar. He's one of the best quarterbacks at playing under pressure because he can move so well. And for him to still get it done against Lamar is a feat in itself. Well, I just wanted to make that point.
That may have been the Bills' best defensive performance of the entire season.
No question about it. No question about it. There's no question.
Just as a team, it was a great game plan. They stuck with their game plan, and they neutralized what the Ravens did best. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, nothing against Jerry. Like I said, Jerry had a great performance. I'm not knocking him, but as in a whole, the entire defense had a great performance, and they made
Jerry didn't dominate that game. He didn't take that game over. Like you said, the defense played their part, and it was a whole defense.
Yeah. And this is why I say about trading Jerry. You have to put Epinesa in a spot. You have to put Epinesa in a spot where you say, "Hey, you need to start. You need to play well. You need to play well from week one." You need to put Boogie Basham, in my opinion, on the other side and say, hey, you need to play well, you need to play for week one. Mario Addison is your stopgap, I think, for 7 to 8 weeks unless Boogie Basham shows, that he's regressing, he's not ready yet. I don't think there's a much fall off from Mario Addison to Jerry Hughes in terms of what you're going to get. And when you talk about veteran, I don't think there's much fall off. I really don't. I think that Mario Addison Mario Addison was your best pass rusher for your first 8 weeks of the season last year.
I would agree with that.
Then he completely fell off. I'm not gonna disagree with the fact that he completely fell off after week 8. But that's when Jerry Hughes kind of ramped it up. And sometimes when it comes to analyzing even fandom, you go by what's the last thing you saw. Mm-hmm. In the first 8 weeks, I saw Mario Addison, like people say, AJ Klein, he played great. Well, for the first 8 weeks, I say AJ Klein played horrible. You know what I'm saying? So it goes both ways, but I think that you do have trade value in Jerry Hughes. I do think there's a team go call it. And I hate to say this. I really do. I hate to say this, but it is what it is. It's a business end of the day, and we have to remember that. Remember this completely. Do not cut Jerry Hughes to say, hey, we want to go give you the opportunity to pick your destination. No. Trade, if you're getting rid of him, trade him somewhere far away. Trade him to Houston. I'm sorry. Trade him to Houston.
Oh, man.
I don't care. Trade him to Houston.
Oh, that's awful.
It's a business. I'm sorry. We're in the business of winning now. There's no law. We should have traded Lesean McCoy for a mid-round pick when we had the chance, and we didn't do it. We got absolutely nothing out of that. Trade this dude to Houston or somewhere, get a mid-round pick, and say, hey, we thank you for your service. At least you're still getting paid $9 million bon voyage.
I think they'll definitely trade him if they get offers. Like I said, if they do their due diligence with the players they have on the roster, and they think they can get by without him, and somebody offers a 4th round pick, I mean, I even think that's high. That he's not worth it. It's just people are like, listen, we know your cap situation. We know the writing's on the wall. I mean, we did get something for Russell Bodine, so that kind of, see the feather in McBean's cap. So, there's definitely a scenario, and I'd be fine with that. I'd understand it. I don't think that's again, like I keep harping back to, I think it's more about what's going on with this team versus what Jerry Hughes is doing on the field.
I mean,
go ahead, EJ.
Yeah,
You got
I just like I said, and I know you guys keep harping back to that, and it is a point to heavily consider because again, there is a business, but like I said, I don't think trading Jerry Hughes, especially when he has 1 year left on his deal, and everyone is pretty much saying that this is going to be just a run it back year. Why am I trading my best pass rusher when finding pass rushers is at a premium? Like, there isn't many great pass rushers out there. And I'm not saying Jerry's a great pass rusher, but he is one of the better ones in the league. So why would I give up my
What about if he goes into camp and he shows he's not anymore?
Then we've seen.
You know what I mean? He's 34.
Yeah, no,
it could
right.
happen.
Then we see that we have something tangible to say he ain't there yet.
Yeah,
I don't have
100%.
anything currently tangible to say, hey, he sucks as a pass rusher. All I have is what he did in the playoffs last year, which was good. He was good in the playoffs last year. He played better than some of these younger guys.
You
so if
you got
get
the playoffs last year, but you also got the first 8 weeks of last year as well. And there was nothing tangible about the first 8 weeks. There was nothing tangible.
I'm not going off the first 8 weeks, man.
So I'm going to put it this way, and I'm going to leave it at this with Jerry. Jerry Hughes' future is not in his own hands. Even if he looks good in camp, Jerry Hughes' future solely depends on what Rousseau, Basham, and Epinesa looks like going to camp. If 2 out of 3 look pretty well or look like they can start, he's gone. I don't care. You know what? At the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of upset fans. There are going to be some little kids crying at Jerry Hughes fans. And oh well, it's a business. I was a kid once, and I watched Thurman Thomas, Bruce Smith, and Andre Reed all get cut on the same day. Jeez. Bawled my eyes out. Oh well. Merry Christmas. Buy your Epinesa jersey now, kiddo.
Man, listen, you're right. It's gonna be a lot. If that happens, it's gonna be a lot of upheaval in Buffalo, and I am not here for that. Like I said, I am not about giving up players that have been productive. But if I'm gonna switch to the other side now, and I'm gonna look at it from a cap, saving perspective, I have been on the record as saying many times that you will not win in the NFL if you don't have cheap talent. And Epinesa, Rousseau, and Ed Oliver, and Boogie Basham, they are all cheap talent. And like you said, Trav, right, exactly. And if Jerry Hughes come into camp showing any type of slowness, any type of that he don't have that first step no more, he hurt, whatever the case may be, and he looking like he not gonna get it done, I'm not gonna sit here and cry and be like, hey, we should have kept Jerry Hughes. If you saying like, man, he don't look like the same guy. Because, like you said, Jeremy, they have 3 excuses why. They just looking for a reason to cut him. And if Jerry gives them any inclination that you're not going to be the same guy you was towards the end of last year, you're done. And I will agree with you on that point. He can't give McDermott or Bean any reason to think that it would be okay to cut him because they got 3 guys in the wing waiting. Well, that's a lot of guys, bro. That's a lot of guys that have waiting in the wing.
I just want you to go back, and this is just looking at trends. I want you to go back to Lesean McCoy. Lesean McCoy didn't look bad in camp. He didn't look bad in the field. It's just that Devin Singletary looked so good that they were able to say bye-bye. And this is what I get to Jerry Hughes. And I know a lot of people are going to say Jerry Hughes is Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane's guy. You're going to hear that a lot. You're going to hear – I want you guys to take notes and write that down watching. You're going to hear that a lot over the next 3 weeks. But Jerry Hughes is Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane's guy. No, he's not. Mario Addison is their guy. Just like Star Lotulelei is their guy. He's not their guy.
He's not their guy at all. Him and Reed Ferguson are the only 2 guys that are left. The fact that he made this long, like, it's from a regime that cut bait real quick.
Like, when he got that extension of the year, I was vehemently against it because I thought that you were placating, you were settling. You felt like you had no other options, which at the time they did not. But now you do. You have 3, possibly 4. I don't know how this Abada guy is going to look. I'm not putting any faith in that. I'm putting just as much faith in Efe Obada as I put in Christian Wade, which is very, very, very minimal.
Right.
Okay. Very minimal.
Well, at least he played, At least he's played.
Yeah, I mean, when you're 6, I mean,
He's got sacks. He's got sacks.
Right. I'm very minimal, but
I know what you're saying.
Going back to EJ's point, I don't think you're going to need much to make the Bills pull that trigger.
Yeah.
Like, we're seeing the reports start swirling. When you start seeing the reports swirling from the wire and the rumblings, and it's brewing. The pot is on the stove. The water's not boiling yet, but you get those little bitty bubbles that start just popping up. Yeah. Those are the bubbles right now. The pot is getting warm. And
like the Bleacher Report articles of all the guys that each team should cut, like stuff like that. Like you said, that's not just not coming out of nowhere. They're not just making that stuff up. I mean, somebody in that organization leaking something. And the Bills are supposed to be one of the more tight-lipped franchises in the NFL. But again, that stuff ain't just coming out of nowhere. You know what I mean? They have Jerry Hughes, they have Mario Addison, on their radar as cap casualties. And again, if I'm arguing this from the other side, if he is a cap casualty, like I'm gonna hate it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna hate it, but I would, like you said, to your point, Jeremy, I'm gonna understand it because you drafted 3 guys at his position, and you're just not gonna have them dudes just sitting, waiting. You know what I mean? But here's the thing of, we have a proven commodity in Jerry, but he has $9 million. But now bringing it to the other part of what we were talking about on our pre-show, we have to think about Josh Allen's contract. He is going to make at least $200 million. At least. He's going to get at least what Dak got. At least that. And so it's like, am I going to give up Jerry Hughes to pay Josh Allen? Hell yeah.
Twice on Sunday.
Yeah. You can't pay him in Josh Jacks.
Right.
And there's no hometown discount.
Right, exactly. Like they were talking about he's going to give him a home. There is none. I agree. There is none.
They're going to structure it friendly, but he's going to make his money.
Bingo. That's what it is. Thank you, Travis. Because a lot of people think that he's going to give a discount. No, it ain't going to be a discount. You're right. It's the structure will be nice for you. He'll space some things out, do some bonuses and things like that for you to help you out because obviously he wants to win. But yeah, and it's not, like I said, it's not just Josh either. It's Tremaine. Unfortunately, and I know a lot of people don't like Tremaine Edmonds. I'm neither here or there. I'm like, he's cool. I can win the Super Bowl with this guy. I've seen Antonio Pierce win the Super Bowl. I'm good. It's doable. But they're going to make him a top 5, top 7 paid middle linebacker in the NFL. It's going to happen because it's all about market value. You know that Stephon Diggs, he's going to have another great year this season. And when he does, he's going to be like, all right, Brandon, where's my paper?
Pay up.
Pay up. Time to pay the piper, baby. Where's my paper? Mike Evans, Amari Cooper, and Mike Thomas all got at least 1 or 2 years of $20 million per year. I want at least 1 year of $20 million per year, or I'm going to cause a problem. And I love Stephon Diggs when he brings to Buffalo, but if you think he won't turn that locker room upside down to get his paper, you're crazy.
But being top of the league in statistics, I mean, you can't argue.
Yeah,
you can't
exactly.
argue
He deserves it. Exactly. He deserves it. There is no question. And I'm glad we're shifting this conversation from Jerry to what cutting Jerry will do for the team going forward. So now we're talking about Diggs. Now we're talking about Allen. Now we're talking about Edmonds. They've already paid Tre'Davious White. Let's say Trey White has another all-pro year. He's not, like you told me, Jeremy, when I first got here, he is not being paid like a top corner. You think he's going to come knocking for some more money too?
Eventually, yeah.
Exactly.
And just like yesterday morning, he was looking for grits on Facebook, if y'all saw that. He said Buffalo have no grits, which I don't know he must not been living here because there's grits all over around the city of Buffalo today. But I don't know. I mean, half the city is from the South, from Buffalo. So I don't know where you can't find grits. But he's going to be looking for his money as well. There's going to be a lot of people looking for money because they're going to be like, wait a minute. I took a deal that was less than market value. And as our guy Mookie Hawkins always calls Brandon Bean, he calls him Bean the Burglar for a reason. Deion Dawkins is not at market value.
Mm-hmm.
Tre'Davious White is not at market value.
That right tackle's making more than him. Has more guaranteed. Atlanta.
Yes. It's not funny, but it is. Stephon Diggs is not at his market value. So at some point, yes, everybody's coming knocking.
Yeah.
Hey, man, where's my money?
It's going to be year after year too. One year it's going to be one guy, the next year it's going to be another guy, and it's just
they will be assed out if two guys come knocking at in the same year. They will be done because once you get Josh Allen's contract on the books, everything else is going to start strapping real tight. Look at what the Packers are doing. The Packers have been drafting great, but once Aaron Rodgers' contract started getting in, they're going to have to start letting some players go. He's getting paid, I think it's 35 this year, Aaron Rodgers is. Mm-hmm. And I'm only saying that because Josh is going to get something close to that also. So, guys, you're going to make some tough decisions like, am I going to pay Trey White or am I going to draft another young stud cornerback?
Well, Trey locked into, he's 31. Trey got robbed so bad. I haven't seen somebody get robbed like that since Vanilla Ice, man. Trey got robbed bad. He really did. He took a contract quick because it was a lot of money. He looked at dollars and he got happy. In 2 years, he's not going to be happy about that deal. And I think we all agree on that. We'll see. 2 years, he ain't going to be happy about that deal. But hopefully he is, but I don't think so. But no, I think fiscally, I have more of a problem with Jerry Hughes fiscally with this year and having 1 year left on this deal than I do actually him playing. And I just want to make that clear. I don't think he impacts the game nearly as much as people give him credit for. And I don't think he's bad. I don't think Jerry Hughes is just awful. I don't want people to get that impression because I don't think he's awful. But what I do think is physically it makes sense to kind of move on when you're going to have these other deals coming up immediately. You're going to have to do two of those deals at the end of this offseason. And if Ed Oliver plays at the level that he plays, his deal is going to be more expensive than Tremaine Edmonds when it comes up because that's a pass rusher. I didn't necessarily agree with bringing Matt Milano back for this reason as well because of the contract that you have. But then even that, we robbed him too.
Yeah, I was just going to say for what we paid him. I mean, that's about the only time it makes sense to bring him back. And bring like Darrell Williams. I mean, there's another. He's gonna be in the same conversation in a year or two that we're having about Jerry Hughes. So Spencer Long, is he gonna take his job?
Right? No,
we're gonna be doing this next year.
Yeah. Like EJ said, EJ said a great point. You love to have cheap talent, and
you gotta.
There's a lot of money on the books that when I look at it, I say, hey. The Bills should get rid of this contract, and this contract. And unfortunately, Jerry Hughes falls on my list of the top 3 contracts the Bills should get rid of.
Who are your top? Who's your top? Yeah, okay, my bad. That's what I was going to ask. Who are your top contracts?
Jerry Hughes, AJ Klein. Because remember, if you trade AJ Klein, you save $5 million. I would trade somebody a 6th-round pick just to take his contract. Because because that money to roll over when you have these deals is very valuable. It's very valuable. When you think about $5 million right now, $5 million got you Darrell Williams for the first year of his deal. That $5 million becomes very valuable. That $7 million for Jerry Hughes becomes very valuable. That's a year of somebody's contract, the first year, until we get to that new TV deal money, which we think the cap at that point will balloon to 240, 245. Then you'll have breathing room. So I think the third one, I'm trying to think, who was my third contract? Mitch Morse. Mitch Morse is my third contract.
Isn't he only signed for one more year, though?
Two. But I think you wait to after this year because after this year, you save around like $10 million for that thing.
Yeah,
and then I think
next year is the year. Yeah,
you save about $10 million for that thing, and then you kick Feliciano in the center, I assume, because he can do it. And I think Feliciano is actually better at center than he has at guard.
I agree.
So I would agree. I don't know, man. It's interesting, guys. I mean, it's been a great debate. It's been we went over his play, his pressures, his pass run rate, his sacks, his financial impact for this season and moving forward, and honestly, his camp competition, along with a trend of what Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott had done in the past. So, I mean, I guess we'll get to our final notes here and our final thoughts. So, Trav, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I want to make it to be clear is that I'd understand both sides. It all depends on what happens in camp. If we would be in big trouble if we don't have the luxury to cut him. That means something is not going as planned regarding those three young guys, which, you know, we all better hope that doesn't happen. But I am, just the more and more we talk about it, especially towards the end, I mean, you go over the highway robbery on half these stars contracts and they're going to need to be paid. So it's like a 34-year-old defensive end who is our best pass rusher at this moment is definitely someone I'd be willing to part ways with if it means keeping those guys in the future.
EJ Daniels.
Yeah, I'm not, as I said at the beginning of the show, I am not with giving up, your best players, especially when his cap number is, in my opinion, a bargain for getting top rate pass rushing. But again, I have to look at this from both sides. And as we have broken down throughout this show, there is a play side and then there is a cap side, money throughout the year side. So again, I got to ask myself, do I want Jerry Hughes for 1 year to go all in and try to beat the Chiefs to win an AFC championship? Or am I going to think about years down the line, rely on these three young guys that I've taken, let's say four young guys, because I'm going to throw Ed Oliver in there because he still haven't really reached his potential. So am I going to rely on these four young guys to, get the pass rushing that I'm looking for to beat these higher level teams and sign guys like Josh Allen, sign guys like Diggs, Trey comes knocking, sign guys like Edmund? Am I going to cut him for that reason? And it is something to sit here and think about, so this is stuff that we should be watching out of camp. We're obviously going to be monitoring it during camp, but this is a juicy camp battle. This is a juicy camp storyline that has to be looked at because it will tell us, what the direction of the team is going to be, going forward into 2021 and then years on.
Just remember, Lesean Mccoy was released when they barely used him in the preseason and said, we want to keep you fresh. You're a veteran. It gave Devin Singletary the opportunity to look good, which ultimately led to McCoy's release. I'll say it once and I'll say it again. Jerry Hughes' future is solely dependent on the performances of Carlos Basham and AJ Epinesa in camp. I am not including Greg Rousseau in that because, like I said, I think we all believe that he's at least a year away. And who knows, if he looks better than we think he does and he picks up fast, then you just pile on to it at that point. But I don't think he's there yet. I really don't. Jerry has been a pillar in Bills Mafia in Buffalo and somewhat in the community for the past 5, 6 years, 7, 8 years, whatever it is, how long he's been here now.
8, yeah.
About 8 years.
Yep.
But at some point, it's business. This team just lost in the AFC Championship game. Jerry was a non-factor. A lot of people were non-factors in that game. So it's not just on him. The coaching staff was the first non-factor of that game, to be honest with you. The coach's game plan lost that game heading into it. So it's not on him. But as I said before, as a kid, I watched Andre Reed, Thurman Thomas, and Bruce Smith all get cut on the same day. So since that point, I really don't give a damn who has to go if it's going to make the team better going forward. And that $7 million with the way the cap is structured, unless we're going to be like the Chiefs, unless we're going to be like the Saints and make all these type of different money moves where you're paying low in salary and paying everything in bonuses and things like that, that's going to eventually get you into trouble. And I don't see Sean McDermott or Brandon Beane even thinking about that philosophy at all. Maybe 1 or 2 players here and there, but no, I don't see that at all. Love Jerry Hughes as a player. I've loved Jerry Hughes since he came to Buffalo reality. But the reality is, man, he's not getting you 10 sacks. He's not even getting you 7. And I understand that everything does not lie in sack totals, but reality, that's kind of what we are paying him for. And this is why we drafted Basham, Epinesa, and Will so forth. And at the very least, with their size and their length, if we can't get sacks, they're all going to give us 6 sacks. They're going to give us a whole hell of a lot more, probably against the run, than we'll get from Jerry Hughes. So either way, guys, good show. I think next topic and next show will probably be I think we're going to go back to Cole Beasley. And could he really be on the chopping block? That's a little bit of an iffy situation, but I think just like this, we can talk about some salary cap points. We can talk about some roster points of why he could be. Don't really see it. We're not talking about vaccination wise, but just in general, we'll see. I think that should be the next show. What do you guys think?
I'm with it.
Yeah, with it. So hey, to my co-host tonight, Travis Blakesley and EJ Daniels, a great show tonight, guys. You guys brought the heat, and we got to get back on here soon. I mean, soon enough, it's going to be training camp, but we'll probably be on here. Somebody will be in here like almost every night. Stay tuned tomorrow. I think Breaking Tables will be live around 7:30. I believe they're giving away an authentic Micah Hyde signed jersey tomorrow. And I know we have some stuff coming also from Buffalo Autographs as well to give away. So stay tuned for all that. And one more thing, Give 716 Day. We had Rich Jareller and Michelle Roberts from the Bills and Sabres on here a couple weeks ago to talk about Give 716 Day and that the goal was to raise $1 million. And they said if there is $1 million, they would come back. Michelle was kind of skeptical on it. We raised $1.3 million as a community for nonprofit organizations and charities around Western New York and New York State in general. And you guys should be proud of yourselves. And this is what Bills Mafia is really all about. This is what we do. So it's no surprise to me. And I think next year we'll go for $2 million. But I'm gonna have those guys. I'm gonna have those two on the show some point in the next couple of weeks to talk about what went right and how they did it and everything like that. So hey guys, great show. Catch you guys later. Like I said, this is the Cold Front Report. I'm your host JTM. We'll catch you guys later. Good night.